Hello and welcome to Xavier's Garage. Today we're going to be checking out the RPM Power R400TS, which is the twin scroll kit based off of a factory turbo mixed with the big turbo. It is the newest addition to Lorenzo's parts lineup that he sells. So we'll be installing this and removing the OG R400, which is capable of way more power, but for the streets and for my intentions, this will be my weapon of choice. Along with the turbo, we're going to be installing the rest of the kit that it came with and the 3-inch downpipe that he sells now. It's pretty much a OEM drop-in replacement. Here in the middle is the R400TS. Here is the stock Cooper S turbo, and here is an early prototype of the R400 turbo kit, the OG R400. The main differences is this has an internal wastegate, and both of these turbos here are set up for an external wastegate. You can see here there's a lot of volume that the exhaust gas will have to fill. Here it's based off of the stock turbo. Stock turbo spools pretty quick, somewhere in the 2000 RPM range, 1500 depending on load conditions, how healthy it is, whatnot. The nice part about Lorenzo's new design with his R400TS is he utilizes a very OEM style exhaust housing. Obviously not an OEM one because there is the capability / it's designed for a external wastegate here, but it's still pretty small ports like factory. Same thing on the wastegate side, so it'll have really quick spool. Here on this turbo here, this is the aftermarket setup. We have a tile wastegate housing. You can see just how thin this is. This is one of the faster spooling exhaust housings on the market that you can get. Ideally, if I was smart, I'd actually be running this setup on the car right now, but for whatever reason I chose a G25 550 clone, which has a 0.72 AR housing, and that's a no-no for a little itty-bitty 1.6. But I think that this will be the solution to all my problems. It'll spool faster, it'll be very similar to Lorenzo's R400 turbo that he makes, which is an amazing hybrid turbo, also with an internal wastegate. I personally love myself a external wastegate and screamer pipe setup. Sounds amazing. And you combine a big turbo with the hybrid turbo capabilities, and in the end we should have a very, very nice power band and have pretty good response. So here you can see the comparison of the three turbos, stock, R400TS, and OG R400. The main reason why I'm featuring this is to talk about the exhaust wheel. Here we have an 11 blade exhaust wheel, 9 blade, and another 9 blade. The main thing is the stock housing is a very stock KO3 style wheel. The OG R400 has the typical ball bearing, like whatever size wheel this is, like a 53 mil I want to say. Pretty common size. And then here the nice part is we have the exhaust housing that's very similar on the R400TS to the factory turbo. Very small exhaust housing, which is nice for spool, but as you can see it's got a nice big 9 blade, which is very similar, very inspired to the both between the R300 blade design and the other blade design on this turbo. So with this, small housings, big blades, fun time. So stock turbo uses a stock exhaust manifold, a little Johnny like this. R400 uses big tubular manifold, and the R400 uses a stock manifold. So I am sad that I'm going to not be running the big beautiful manifold anymore. I will have great performance, and this is a brand new Cooper S manifold. This should be one of the higher flowing ones. With that being said, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to remove everything off the car that's on there right now, remove the front, and then we will jump into this project of installing the R400 twin scroll kit. Now that the car is fully prepared and everything has been stripped and replaced as needed to install the turbo kit, as you can see, we removed the billet RPM power oil filter housing. We have the factory housing back on here. And the first thing I've installed from the kit is his aux coolant pump bracket, which contains mounting tabs for a boost solenoid, which we will connect to the turbo and to our boost controller. Don't forget to plug in your aux coolant pump here and your oil pressure switch. We will be utilizing the aux coolant pump again, unlike the previous R400 setup. Here is your oil feed line that is provided with the R400TS Turbo Kit. There's the bottom of the oil feed, follows up, make sure it's away from the manifold area and is below where it's going to get pinched or anything. And this up here will go on top of the turbo. We are now going to mate the turbo and the exhaust manifold. You can see here, make sure you have your donut gasket. And here we have a brand new Cooper S manifold. And I'm pretty much just gonna together. Okay, so now it is time to install the R400TS. I have bolted it to the factory manifold, as you can see here. And all we're gonna do is slide her on in. We have test fit the turbo, and we are in our mock-up stage currently. We have installed the alternator heat shield. This originally came with the original R400 turbo kit. I don't know if it's provided with this kit, I don't think it is. But it'll help protect the alternator from heat. I did start melting it on my last track day. That's all nice and protected. I'll protect the connectors and everything. As you can see, everything's mock-up here. Then over here, there's a oil pressure switch for the N18 engine. On the N14 it's further back. In this setup you're supposed to have an adapter that's running to here, which I currently do not have. So what I've done is I've just clocked the turbo to compensate. Same thing, it doesn't affect anything at all, just everything will bolt right up. And then I have to assemble our charge pipe as one of the next steps after we finish bolting up everything. We are below the turbo and manifolds, and we are going to tighten the manifold to the head now. There's great visible access, straight shot to all these bolts along the bottom here. You also get to the top one from right through here. And then from this side here, you can access these bolts too, just like you would stock. One thing I'd like to point out about this kit, which is amazing, is the accessibility to all these bolts. It's super easy. A minute ago I talked about reaching this one here from the bottom. You can very easily reach it from the top with an 11mm wrench. Not only that, you have room to clearance to get over here. You can do almost a full 180 degree sweep with the wrench. This bolt used to be a pain with the stock turbos and even other manifolds. We're going to install the oil drain line now from the bottom of the turbo back to the oil filter housing. So this side is like a Garrett turbocharger style flange. It goes into the bottom of the turbo, as you can see. Go ahead and take a look at the bottom. Right there, my finger is. It's the flange. So what we're going to do is we're going to install the bottom with the clamp facing towards us, or slash an accessible point that you can get to easily. We're going to install the bottom part first. Sometimes a little spray, like silicone spray, will help. Do not contaminate the oil system, but you can slide it on and then bolt on the top. The bottom is slid on. We'll tighten that in a moment. And then just line up the top and then bolt it in. Here we have our TurboSmart Wastegate Comp 40. If you've never used an external wastegate before, you need to know something, which is something that I learned the hard way on one car, which is this is called the piston valve seat here. This is called the valve seat. This is the piston here. This basically goes in here and seals exhaust gases from escaping. This is replaceable here. This must get sandwiched. I'll rotate it to a different orientation. But this must get sandwiched in here as you tighten it. And then as you press up and when you clamp it, it'll compress, which I cannot show right now because I'm sitting in a weird angle. But what we're going to do is, first things first, as I mentioned, we're going to make sure we have this. And then we're going to loosely fit the wastegate clamps here, and then we're going to loosely fit the skimmer pipe temporarily. And then we're going to install the downpipe and make sure that we have clearance and can adjust everything while everything's loose before we set it in stone and tighten it. Okay, so this is... Alright, we are in the mock-up stage of the skimmer pipe. Lorenzo told me to leave everything loose, as I had mentioned earlier. So you can clock everything, spin everything, do whatever's needed to get everything to line up. You want to make sure it doesn't rattle against the block or anything, but we do want it to stay towards the block and to the left side here, near the AC compressor down here. So we're leaving everything loose for now. And then now we're going to grab our downpipe. Ideally we wouldn't fit this actual skimmer pipe until we have the downpipe on, but for the sake of this is the size fit. Once again, you need your gasket and everything here. But we're going to take our 3-inch downpipe, and you can see they kind of bind together here. So we're going to put the bracket behind the skimmer pipe, and just like that. Because roughly how it'll go, you'll want to line everything up down here like this. You can access the bolt, but it's a little tight back here. So that's why you ideally want to leave this out until the end. But once again, we're keeping the clamps accessible but loose. So here and here is how I have it oriented. And for clocking of the wastegate, it's pretty much pointing straight back towards the engine block. So what we're going to do is we are going to take off the downpipe again. We're going to remove the skimmer pipe here. We understand that it's generally going to be around this positioning. So we're going to take it off, and then we will fit just the downpipe and then the skimmer pipe a final time after that, once the downpipe is in its position, so we can understand our clearance to downpipe and everything else. So one thing I would like to point out about this downpipe and everything about this kit is everything fits amazingly and is absolutely designed for the technician that's working on the car. So this top bolt, as always, is easy to access. Excellent clearance here for this bolt. I can use a traditional 13 mil socket with an extension. Ideally I'd use a shorter extension, but this is what we're using for the moment. Plenty of clearance, doesn't bind like the factory ones do. And the same thing for the back side of the engine. Back here, exact same thing. I can get my tool in with ease. I'll try and change where the light is up here, but you can see my socket fits beautifully, and I can tighten it. So no other downpipe other than Mario Paul's downpipe, and shout out M-Cube Motorsport. Mario's and this one are the two most impressive downpipes I've come across, but this one definitely takes the cake for accessibility and downpipes on the market. Okay, so before we continue with all of our other little accessories, like assembling our charge pipe, with the blow valve and everything, we have another cool one we need to do, which we'll do after this next part. Basically what we're going to do now is reference boost, which will be from turbo right here. We're going to slip this on. Like so. I will snug that up a bit in a moment off camera. And then, so we're going to go from here to providing reference boost to the turbo wastegate, to the external gate. Once again, I will snug that one up off camera. The other end goes into our boost controller, or slash our Mac valve. And then the outer side, which gets controlled by a pulse width modulated check valve, goes out and into the other side of the wastegate, like so. Very easy, simple setup. Once again, I will correct this off camera, but that simple. This will go to your boost controller. It's pretty much it for this part. We're just gonna snug these up and then move on to our coolant line and our charge pipe. For the coolant line aspect of this, you can see I already have one of Lorenzo's previous revisions of the coolant tee. That's the one that factory is plastic that loves to break. You can see that it is a metal upgrade. It is phenomenal. But what we're doing here is he gave us another one, very similar, but it changes the angle that the coolant in the turbo is. So basically, the T goes on the bottom. This coolant line will attach the turbo like so. And then the other half of the hose will go to the thermostat, and the front half will go into the bottom of the coolant reservoir. One thing that's included in the kit is a brand new downpipe to exhaust, clamp, and gasket. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna crawl under the car. This part would be the part where it'd be nice if you had a lift, but you don't need a lift. And then what you're gonna do is you're gonna put the clamp gasket on the downpipe side. It'll go over and pretty much click into place. And you want to compress the little clips around the edge. Before I do that, I'm going to put the clamp on here and use the clamp to assist with this process. Okay. Okay, so here we have our charge pipe lightly assembled. I can still clock everything as needed. The clamps aren't on there. They're in position ready, but not tightened. Bottom of this flange off the turbo ends right here. So I have adequate room to put a clamp here. A little light vent here, so the R400TS here. Goes to this pipe here, which is where our blow-off valve will go. And then this 90-degree will go into our intercooler on the front of the engine, back up and around into over there. So we'll take care of that in a minute. Okay, so you can see in here we have our brand new TurboSmart, what is it, the V-Port Pro blow valve. There's some vacuum line, blow valve itself, plus a mounting flange if you need, which in our case you don't need. It's definitely going to sound different from the tire, but it should perform a little better for the N18 engine. It's fully adjustable. You can harden it, you can soften it, like so. I'll leave it on the harder setting for now. I would like starting harder and then softening it. And yeah, we'll remove this, clamp this to here, and then we should be all set for this part. As you can see, we have a lot of progress here. We have our coolant line. All of this is teed up and squared away. These are tight. This is tight. This is set up. I just need to run the vacuum line to a vacuum/boost reference. And now we're working on the intake, in which we are going to put one piece on right here. Like so. Big old boy. And then we're going to clock it towards our target direction. That'll have to do for a moment. The next piece of the intake will be this here, which will go like so. Let me just slide this clamp away and loosen it. Once again, leave everything pretty loose fitting so that it's easy to access and clock and turn as needed. For example, it should go something like that. You have a tap here for your factory vacuum line, which we'll do later. We've now assembled the intake here, as you can see. All ready, connected, everything's ready to go. The last thing we need to do regarding charge pipes for now is I have been sent a charge pipe from the cold side of the charge pipe to the throttle body. Should go down roughly like so. I have to clock it. It's around there. But we're gonna install that, and that'll connect to our factory plastic one, which will come down and around the front of the engine. And then once we connect all this, we should be ready to put the front end back on. For the blow-off valve here, for this, we're gonna attach the vacuum line on here like so. The other half of the vacuum line, we have to source a boost and vacuum point. So what I've done here is, I'll take this for a moment. On the back of the engine, you have these ports here, in which normally this one is internally capped. What I did is I drilled a hole through the center that goes into the manifold. This was done off the car, everything was cleaned out. This was done a long time ago. But I still use that as a boost reference point slash vacuum, because after the throttle body going into the engine. So what I've done is I've gone to Mini's part website, and they sell caps for that. Although, even though they're internally blanked, some of them come with physical caps. They're blanks, they don't have anything. What you can see here is I added a nipple and fitting to use for boost reference. So what we're gonna do is run the vacuum line from the blow-off valve to here. Same deal, you're just gonna slip it on. I won't put it on yet because it's not in the car. But that's basically the basic concept. Sixth gear, below 3,000. I only have like a 10 or 11 pound spring in here right now. Well, I hope you guys enjoy this RPM Power R400TS install as much as I did. It is very awesome having a twin scroll setup. It's very responsive again. Here in the canyons, it is pretty much responsive like an NA car. No real lag. It just gets down, does the business, and gets out the turn. Thank you all for watching, and until next time, goodbye. And thank you, Lorenzo, for helping me work out a little magic for this green bean Frankenstein thing.